Welcome back to Giving Chances Farm. Today we had the cows out here grazing again while we were cleaning the stock tank out and putting the tank heater in there, because with it being 80 degrees the other day, it was kind of hard to remember that it was fall and colder temperatures was coming. So we ended up, it was in the 20s this morning when we woke up. The tank didn't freeze, but it did have a little bit of an ice ring around the top edge. So now we're letting the girls attempt to move the cows by themselves. We'll see how much they've been paying attention to when Brittany and I move the cows. Looks like they're doing pretty good to me. Good job, girls. Get them on a little past the gate for me. There you go. Thanks, girls. Alright, we'll take a walk out here and see what all they've accomplished in 2 days worth of being out here. As you can see, they're eating some of it, and what they're not eating, they're actually trampling. But the manure is kind of sporadic through here, but it's a little bit more concentrated than if we let them have this whole 4.5 acres. So we can concentrate it down into a smaller area. That way we can fertilize it. You can pretty much see right along the fence row here where they've been eating. So there's definitely a difference here. And what we'll do is we'll end up keep making this paddock all the way along. So it goes down to the tree line there, over to the trees over there, all the way along the tree line is the fence row. So, and then there used to be a small little divider fence right through here, but we took that out. Now I just got to clear the briars and the few trees out of that area, and then this will be wide open 4.5 acres.
I think there's a few T-posts in there that we couldn't get out.
Yep. But the goal is, from here on out, is we're going to probably still continue to bale for a little while longer, but I still want to be able to rotate them through here at a minimum, at least in the winter time. That way they can fertilize it for us for the next year, and we'll see a couple of years of that to see how that's working. Depending on the way things go, we may end up making the decision at some time to go ahead and just start putting temporary paddocks out here year round and grazing them, and then just buy hay. I mean, it just depends. We have to do what suits us for our size property. We try to be a little bit more self-sufficient, so if I do bale some hay, that cuts down on what we have to buy. But on the other side of that is, if it's another year like this year where we had basically had a drought during the summertime and I was buying hay because things wasn't growing, which makes more sense, have grass out here that they could be eating and me still feeding hay, or let them out here to eat it. So those are decisions that need to be made. So but you can kind of walk down here and see a little bit more of a defining line. You can see how they basically come right up to the fence. And there's a definite transition between what they have eaten and what is next. So what our plans are next is to Brittany and I are going to take this black and white fencing, because we have more of it, and we're actually going to string straight down this tree line here all the way to the far fence, and then we have a couple of rolls of the white equine rope, and we'll come back through with posts, and we'll make probably one more. We'll go about halfway between here and the fence, and we'll make another section, and then after that we'll pull that and let them go to the last section. Ideally, in rotational grazing, we wouldn't let them have access to this area here that they've already eaten, but since we've already had frost, the grass should be going into its dormant stage, so it won't hurt them to come back across this, because that's the exit anyway. They'll have to get to it. But as long as we can pin them into those smaller areas, we can concentrate the manure and not allow them to have access to the whole pen. But and then basically, once we get this section done, we'll move to the other side of that tree row and put another one out there all the way across, and then we'll put our dividing lines up, and we'll continue that all the way till we get to the far end down there. And we're going to attempt to do that all throughout the winter, snow or no snow. So they say that they'll dig through the snow to get to it if it needs to. So we'll see how that works. It's going to be a trial and error for us. I know I've seen others do it, and it works for them, but you know, just because you've seen it on somebody else's YouTube channel doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work here. So, but I'm worth giving it a try. So anything we can do to stretch the hay a little bit longer, because I know last year, one round bale last year was lasting us about 3 days, and that's with 14 head of cattle last year. Right now we've got 11. So and then we do have square bales, because we bale small squares when we bale out here. I don't have the round baler anymore. I sold it. So when it comes to round bales, I buy them. But I can always feed square bales. And to me, they're a little bit more versatile than the round bales for us, because if the weather's bad and it's real muddy out, because last winter we had a lot more mud than we did hard ground. It never really stayed cold enough to really freeze the ground. So a lot of times that upper layer was just kind of soupy, and you'd make a lot of ruts, and it cost a lot of time to repair those ruts with the tractor after winter was over. So if I have the opportunity to be able to walk out carrying a couple of square bales, or even use our little garden cart and pull it out with a few square bales in it, then I can still do our bale grazing. So I can move that, and we have a tractor tire that's just the right size. We can put it inside our round bale feeder, and then put square bales upright on the outside of that tire between the bale feeder and the tire, and it works just fine for us. Then we can continue to move that bale feeder every time we feed cows. We can try to concentrate their manure in different areas. That way we can keep the pasture and the soil health in that area. So, but we'll see how this goes. It's all just a trial and error, really, because you know, you can try to calculate it out. You know, they give you these fancy calculations of how to calculate out your animal impact, and by size of cows or sheep or goats or whatever the animal is, and you try to calculate out animal days when you're moving through for rotational grazing. And really you have to take into account of what that ground is doing, because each section is going to be different. We don't always come out here, because if by the calculation I could actually come out here and do an 80 by 80 square every time we made a paddock, and that should give me 1 day's worth of grazing for everything that we have as far as cattle is concerned. But every 80 by 80 section is not growing the same, even though it's the same grass, it's similar soil types, but some of it has shade on it, some of it doesn't. So the shaded areas naturally are not going to grow as fast as the areas in the full sun. Sections up closer to the fence don't seem to grow as well, because they have weeds intruding on them along the fence row. Out in the center, You know, it may be a drainage issue. Some of it may hold a little more water at times than others. So you got to take into account of what that section is doing at the time and kind of judge it every day. And then adjust your numbers to match that. There's lots of great books out there that cover that stuff. One of the ones that we enjoy was Dirt to Soil by Gabe Brown, I think is his name.
Yep.
We read that book. We've also done some of Alan Savory's program to go through that for rotational grazing. So, I mean, there's lots of stuff out there on the internet now that you can read, and you know, you kind of have to be able to do as much research as you can, but then at the end of the day, you have to take all of that information that you got and try to see how you can make it work for you and your circumstances, because everybody is different. Just the same as, you know, we raise honeybees here. Well, what we're doing with our boxes here on our property may not work even 3-4 miles away from us, because they have different forage that they're getting to forage on. So they can be similar, yes, but it's not necessarily identical because the conditions are different. So we have to make sure that we understand that, and we try to adapt and overcome as we can. So hope everybody enjoys the videos, and we'll see you on the next one.